Hey everyone, welcome back to ASM Track Tips. My name's Tomo Gorman, and today we're going over Pittsburgh International Race Complex. It's in Wampum, Pennsylvania. It is 2.8 miles and 19 corners. So there's a lot going on the track here, and if you could boil it down to one word, I'm gonna make it hustle. This track really rewards hustling a car, keeping it on the edge of adhesion, using the rotation of the car, and really using the weight transfer as well. So if you're willing to do all that, you're gonna love Pitt Race. So here we have our overhead map of Pittsburgh International Race Complex, or Pitt Race. And as you can see, a lot of corners, there's a lot going on here. As I mentioned in the beginning, this track really rewards hustling the car. So we'll get to those spots, but starting on the front straightaway, coming down the right side of the track, having completed your previous lap, it's actually downhill slightly for a while and then back to uphill with a 4-3-2-1 brake marker down the right side. It's downhill until about the 3 and then goes uphill towards the 2 and the 1. So most cars can actually brake down at the crest, down at the bottom of the hill for about the 3 board, if not up towards the 2. But you do have a pretty significant amount of time from the top of the crest here, which makes turn 1 blind, before you actually have to turn in. And the biggest struggle people have is not being able to see the corner and anticipating it. So just keep an eye out for this apex curbing as you're coming up over that crest. You don't need to turn in until you can actually see the corner. Try not to anticipate it or get surprised by it too much. Just keep your eyes looked up for this apex curbing. Now once you get over the crest, you're going to be heavy on the brakes, releasing the pedal and turning in. Pretty standard turn in around where the 0 marker would be, getting you down to the apex curbing. Get your left sides up on the apex curbing and roll as much speed as you can through turn 1 out to the outside curbs and this access road for the short course. From your turn-in point, you're going downhill, but as you go through the apex and start to track out, you go back to uphill. And if you notice, the corner is not even 90 degrees. So this is a very, very quick corner to start off our lap, and you're leading up onto another really long straightaway. So prioritize your apex speed here at turn 1. Don't worry about setting up for a late apex or anything, just roll your speed right through here. And again, using curb on both exit and access road here, getting into turn 2. Once you're through turn 1, you can just kind of carry your trajectory up towards the crest at turn 2. A good spot is to just kind of straddle the blend line as you cross over the top of turn 2. That also won't get you black flagged if you go all the way to the apex. Sometimes they don't like that. So just straddle that blend line and come up over the crest, which should put you pretty naturally on the right side of the track down towards turn 3. So now we're coming into turn 3, uphill pretty significantly towards a 3-2-1 brake marker. We're going to brake uphill again around the 3 or the 2. Most cars should be able to make it to at least the 2. But we're really prioritizing entry speed through turn 3, just getting to turn 4 as quickly as we can. So we're turning in around where the 0 would be, having done our 3-2-1 braking markers, and use all of this inside curb at turn 3 to really hustle the car through the apex of turn 3 and get you towards turn 4 as quickly as possible. Because of the elevation here, you start to actually drop downhill through turn 3 and 4. You can prioritize entry speed and sacrifice turn 4 just a little bit more, rather than sacrificing turn 3 to attack turn 4 the way you might think on the overhead map. So having eaten all of this curb on the inside of turn 3 with the left side of the car, the idea is to just get the car as far left on tracking out at turn 3 as possible so that you can open up turn 4. But because that elevation will start to kick in, you're basically going to end up drawing kind of a straight line from the exit curb, end of the curb at 3 to the start of the curb at 4. And there's a lot of camber happening here through the bottom of turn 4 as well. So you really want to actually stay off the throttle. Try not to hustle the car too much in this phase of the corner. You're going to hustle it on entry here, compose it here, and then let the compression of that last bit of drop really catch the car exiting turn 4 as you track all the way out to the left. If you add hustle in this section right here, turning in for turn 4 between the 2 corners, the chances are you're going to rush the exit of turn 4 and end up coming off the track on the exit left side here. So you want to be patient through the middle of turn 4, let the car compress, and then really shoot it down the hill. So having felt the compression exiting turn 4, tracking out to the left side of the track, now we're going very significantly downhill towards turn 5. As you're coming out of turn 4, you kind of want to work the car towards the middle of the track and line yourself up to become parallel with this last bit of the straightaway as you dive down the hill for turn 5. If you stick to the left side of the track here, you're going to draw a straight line to the apex here, and that leaves just a little bit of opportunity where if you angle the car off towards the outside, you can open up turn 5 just a little bit more, and that's going to pay you dividends to get up this hill out of turn 6. So once your position is set, you're set up slightly to the outside here, you can really throw the car down into the compression at turn 5 and start to get on power aggressively coming up out of turn 6. The tricky part is the elevation will make a front-wheel drive car start to push as turn 5 finishes. It will make a rear-wheel drive car, especially with any horsepower of note, kind of loosen up and want to get squirrely on exit of turn 5 here. So a clean acceleration is the most important thing off of turn 5 because you're going way uphill towards turn 6. If you lose a little bit of apex speed for the sake of exit speed and clean acceleration, that's actually going to be quicker than just diving through the apex as fast as possible. So now we're coming up over the crest at turn 6, down the left side of the track, and now downhill towards the S's, which are turns 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. And these are very arrhythmic S's. No two are the same, and that makes it pretty challenging to feel the rhythm through here. So the overarching theme for these S's, I think, are keeping the weight transfer dancing back and forth and using it to your advantage, rather than becoming complacent and just trying to use the steering wheel to get the car through the S's. When you maximize that weight transfer between each of these corners, it allows you to keep that little bit more momentum up when you're transitioning between the two, rather than just relying on that steering wheel. So as we approach turn 7, we have the 3, 2, 1 braking marker. And turn 7 is all about entry speed because you're actually starting to go slightly uphill as you approach the turn-in point, which is right around that 1 board. As you roll off the brakes, you're going to use all the inside curb on the driver's right as you've turned in for turn 7. And the goal is to be set up as far to the right as possible, having maximized your speed through turn 7. So yes, you are maximizing the attack. You're really attacking the car into turn 7, but you still want to be set up just off of the exit curb on the right here to make turn 8 as open as possible on entry. So we've done a super late apex at turn 7. Now we're going to do a very central apex at turn 8. And turn 8 has a lot of camber working with you. So turning from the very far right side of the track down to the middle apex at turn 8, tucking right up against the curb, but don't actually use the curb on the inside of turn 8. And then we're going to track out to about mid-track here between turns 8 and 9. Again, it's really critical to keep the weight transfer dancing back and forth. So rather than coming off of turn 7 and driving straight for a second where the car can become composed, try to be turning to the right, keeping the weight on the left side of the car as long as possible until you can toss that weight back to the right side as you turn left for turn 8. We're going to keep that weight on the right side of the car as we track out to the midpoint between turns 8 and 9. Working our way back to the left side of the track though, so continue that arc. So we'll have the car in the middle of the track exiting turn 8, but we want to keep that trajectory going off to the left side of the track before we turn back to the right for turn 9, which is going to be similar to 7 in that we want a super late apex right at the edge of the curb. You don't want to use this inside curb either, but you want to get tucked up right next to it if you can on the exit to open up turn 10 as much as possible. Starting to get towards the end of the S's here, and they do start to get faster and faster. So we're coming uphill through turn 9, having late apexed all the way on the right side of the track, and turn 10 is completely blind. The sight lines for 7, 8, 9 are pretty good, but 10 is really tough because the crest of the hill is right here. We're headed uphill towards it on the right side of the track. And a pretty good turn-in point is actually this access road for the short course. As you pass it on your right side, you should be able to pretty slowly but assertively turn in and get to a late apex at turn 10, which that crest will start to float the car as you clear it and put it towards the middle of the track approaching turn 11. So for a quick recap, we have a late apex at 7, central apex at turn 8, late apex at turn 9, and a fairly center to late apex at turn 10, if you need a rule of thumb for the S's. So once you've cleared the crest here at turn 10, we really have a pretty wide open straightaway through turn 11 up to turn 12. And yes, it's not straight, but it is essentially a flat out run. So this is a big acceleration zone and you want to maximize it. So once you've come out of turn 10, try not to attack the exit too much. We want to get the car a little bit towards the left side of the track, but we're going to turn in for turn 11 super early. We're going to jump this curb that's on our right. We're going to use some of the access road on the right even and track the car all the way out to the left. You should be really fighting to keep the car out of the grass as you're coming through turn 11. That's how much speed we want there. So having really attacked turn 11, we're going to just keep the car on the track as you pass the exit curb and some of this grass on our left, and keep the car all the way on the left because we're coming up to turn 12, which is another really significant elevation change here. The trick for turn 12 is using the inside curb to your advantage. It's actually very flat, very friendly, and pretty grippy, so you want to put as much of that car on the right side curbing as you possibly can to help kind of slingshot the car up this hill towards turn 13. There's not a great braking reference, but I would kind of start back where the curb ends on your left exiting turn 11 and just work your way in towards the corner from there. They don't usually put braking markers through this section. But again, turning in early enough that you get the entire right side, if not more so, of the car on that curb, and you can even track out coming out of turn 12 towards turn 13. But through turn 13 is an acceleration zone over a crest. So you ideally want to track out from turn 12 only as much as you can kind of stay flat out through turn 13 up into 14. If you have to do a significant lift or brake for turn 13, you've attacked 12 too hard. But just a little lift of the throttle to tuck the nose for 13 or a straight acceleration through here is ideal. So now we're coming into turn 14, and as you can see on this track map, it's a very shallow corner, but it is one of the most intimidating on the track because it's completely blind, and you actually have to turn in for this corner way sooner than you think. If you turn in when you can see it, you're going to be in the grass out here. So you really want to turn in super, super early. And part of what helps here is you have another friendly inside curb that's completely flat. It essentially adds a car width to the inside of the track, but you can't see it until you've actually gotten into the corner. So you kind of have to anticipate it by turning in early. You're going to basically be driving at what feels like straight into the grass, but then as you come over the crest, you'll end up with all four tires on this curbing as you cross through the apex of turn 14. We're also going downhill the entire time, so it's going to spit the car out to the left side of the track as we track out here. If you've done it exactly right, you'll turn in, just come onto the curb as you go over this crest, and then barely keep the car on the track, kicking up a puff of dirt as you come onto this back straightaway. If you need some help on where to be looking for turn 14 to give yourself some more confidence, as you come over this crest, you should be turning in again before you can see the corner, but just keep an eye out for the end of the curb over here. If you find that curb early, you can kind of draw a straight line to it, and then your muscle memory will start to have a place to work from. And eventually turn 14, you basically just turn in, and a lot of cars it's even flat out. But it's a lot of fun to kind of throw the car over the hill here. So now we're on the back straightaway, quote unquote straightaway, and turn 15 should be flat out in pretty much every car. But you do have to set up more to the right side of the track before turn 15 if you're in a higher horsepower car, especially if you don't have some downforce or good tires working for your favor. So again, it's flat out, but if you need to get all the way over to the right side of the track, do your work coming off of 14 while the car is at lower speed so that you can go flat out through turn 15, rather than coming straight at 15 and then realizing you've run out of track at the exit. Now you've got a pretty long break coming through turn 15 all the way up into 16, but you do want to work the car to the left side of the track as you approach this right-hand kink at turn 16. And turn 16 by itself is not really complicated, but it becomes very complex because it's the braking zone or the start of the braking zone for turn 17 in most cars. Now they do give you another curb to work with. It's on the inside of the track. It's totally flat and you can use it, so you want to aim to straddle that curb or get all the tires on it as you come through turn 16. A slower car, especially one with ABS, can get past turn 16 and get the wheel straight and then brake down for turn 17, which is the slowest corner on the track. But in anything with, maybe 300 or more horsepower, or especially if you don't have the best brakes, you're going to have to start braking while you're still turning through turn 16. So there's some multitasking happening here that you're going to have to be very careful with. The trick here is consider that your car has 100% of its capabilities to give you. If you're still turning with 20% of its capabilities, you can only brake at 80% and then add brake pressure as you get the car straightened out. So you can kind of do that mental math. How much am I asking the car to turn and how hard can I brake? And you basically want to hit the maximum of both as you come through turn 16 to get the car slowed down for turn 17. So now that we've identified our braking point for turn 17 back here in turn 16, turn 17 is really not all that complex. You're going to eventually get the car over on the left side of the track here. You do typically have some braking markers over here, maybe a 3, 2, and a 1. But turn 17 is definitely a very late apex corner. It's one you do not want to rush because it leads you uphill and onto another very long straightaway to finish your lap. So turn 17, if in doubt, prioritize a later turn in, a later apex, and consider that it does start to go uphill as you turn in and start to accelerate up this hill. So you should gain a little bit of grip as the car rolls through the apex, allowing you to get on power a little bit more aggressively than maybe another corner on some other track that you're familiar with. But again, getting a nice clean exit, having late apex 17 to get onto this front straightaway is very, very important. Once you've gotten your power down, you can use all of the track all the way out to the left side at turn 18 up into turn 19. This whole phase is uphill, but a slightly less powerful car where you've picked up the power here at the apex of 17, you may be wasting distance if you go all the way out to the left side here. So just kind of let the car go where it needs to go as you accelerate off. The only thing you have to plan for is if you do have quite a bit of horsepower, you're going to want to get back to the middle of the track and turn in before turn 19, because turn 19 does become quite a corner if you have maybe more than 500 horsepower. You're going to want to be cresting this hill onto the front straightaway, having planned ahead for that rather than getting surprised. So you do want to have planned ahead a little bit for turn 19 so that you're not turning over the crest for the first time and running out of track on your right. So there's a lap of Pittsburgh International Race Complex. It's a busy one, so let's jump inside a car and see what it looks like. So now we're on board at Pitt Race, and this is a 2001 Mustang Cobra that's lightly modified for track days. So it's actually a lot of fun to drive, but you're going to see it's pretty lively. Still a stick axle in the back. It's on some pretty good sticky track tires. No ABS, around 300 horsepower. So this thing's a little bit rowdy, but it gives you a good look at what kind of hustle you need here at Pitt Race to get a good lap time. We're coming up onto the front straightaway to start a new lap at Pitt Race. We're going downhill under the start-finish stand and then uphill again into our braking zone, braking just at the bottom of that hill there, coming up over the crest and turning in to get our left side tires on the apex curve at turn 1, then using all of the access road and everything I need to track out before then getting back for turn 2, just kind of touching that blend line before heading up towards turn 3. Now we're headed uphill into turn 3, and I want to use all the apex curbing I can to get through turn 3 quickly, turning in about where the 0 is there and then floating the speed across the apex before I tuck in for the compression at the bottom of turn 4. There's the compression, and I can accelerate hard down towards turn 5 before getting hard on the brakes early because I'm going downhill, and then trying to get as much of this power down as I can up off of turn 5 through turn 6. We get a little bit of a breather to plan for the S's, and watch how I keep the weight transfer dancing back and forth, utilizing that as much as I can before turning in for turn 7 here, using all of the curb on my right, keeping the car on the right side, and then tossing that weight back for turn 8. Central apex here, out to the middle of the track, but back to the left side for turn 9, pitching the weight back to the left side of the car, late apex at turn 9, and then turning in at that access road there for the blind turn 10. Trying not to touch too much curb, getting to the middle of the track, pitching one more time, and then flat out through 11, just barely keeping the car on the track there and braking as soon as I get to the left side of the track. Now turning in for 12, all the curb on the inside, tracking out just enough that I can keep my power down through turn 13, and turning in early for turn 14. There's that inside curb that catches you, tracking you all the way out to the outside on the left for turn 14. Now setting up slightly for turn 15 before I take a little bit of a break down the back straight, planning ahead for the little kink, braking zone at turn 16. I'm going to pick up the brakes gently here and then adding brake pressure as I straighten the car out. Now heavy on the brakes before setting up for a late apex. I'm going to pick up the power towards the end of this corner and try to get the power down as cleanly as I can in a sick axle car up onto the front straightaway to complete a lap, a very busy one at Pitt Race. So those are my tips for Pittsburgh International Race Complex, which brings us to our scores. First off, I'm going to do fun factor, and that one for me is an 8. And the only thing keeping it from being a 10 out of 10 is that the flow is just a little bit awkward in a couple places, but otherwise the entire track is a ton of fun. And again, if you're willing to hustle the car, you're really going to stay on that edge of adhesion and have a lot of fun around here. So next up we have our risk factor, and I'm going to give it a 7 on risk factor. There are certain places on this track that really put you in a position where the car is at the absolute edge of control, and then it asks you to do something more again. For example, down through turn 16 into 17, exiting the S's through turns 10 and 11 out to the old circuit. Those places you just have to be willing to take a risky position with the car to go fast. If you're willing to do it, you're going to be quick, but it does certainly put you in that risky position. And finally, our technicality score is also going to be an 8. This is certainly a really tricky track to put together, partially because of the number of corners and the length, but also just because of that slightly awkward flow. Makes it tougher to feel where the car should be at some places. So there's not necessarily a lot of absolute logic to where you would put the car. You kind of have to know it to actually get it right. So hopefully the tips have been helpful. So my overall score for Pitt Race is going to be a 7. I think this track is a lot of fun, especially for lapping. You can just go there and really learn a lot about your car and your driving. It really challenges you as a driver, but I do think that sometimes you can lose a bit of the fun because of how challenging the track can be. Once you learn the track, once you learn the flow and how to get around here, you're going to look like an absolute hero every event. So maybe give it some time. If it feels challenging and tedious, just keep going back and I guarantee it'll click someday. So that does it for Pitt Race. I hope you found that helpful. We do have driver coaching available here through ASM, everything from remote coaching to trackside private days and a whole lot more. So get a hold of us on our website. But otherwise, thanks for watching.